it was like Cocoa Puffs, I Love Lucy, and then oh, we're gonna eat your baby,
motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody.
Woo.
We are back, and it is 1 fucking hour time. Of course, the show where we talk about one movie for 1 fucking hour. I am Evan Husney, and of course, we are joined by Tom Fitzgerald to my left. Tom, how's it going?
Greetings. I'm very excited about this one.
Oh man, yeah. This is I have been chomping at the bit to get into this.
Wild.
And I can't wait. To my right, we also have our usual guest here, our special friend here, Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, how's it going?
Hi.
Yeah.
All right. And so we're going to be getting right into this, guys. A little recap because we teased it at the end of last week. This is episode 62, where we are getting into the ill-fated, not finished, incomplete Nightmare on Elm Street reboot from 2002, starring Michael Berryman. Now, we talked about at the end of last week that we were able to get a top secret link of this movie sent to us. We saw the movie. It's absolutely wild backstory, and we're going to get into how the movie was made, how it came together, how it fell apart, why it was shelved.
Someone should make a movie about the making of this reboot.
That would be...
It's that crazy.
That's true. That would be great. So we're going to get into the money laundering, all that stuff. This is a crazy story, so strap in. The Nightmare on Elm Street 2002 reboot, episode 62. You guys ready? Shall we do this? Shall we start this clock?
Yeah.
All right, and here we go. Boom. All right, Tom, why don't you just start us off here? I mean, what was your initial reaction to this, seeing the movie?
It's always special to see a mythic lost film, and I finally sat down and watched it the other day, and it's not as bad as I thought it would be, actually.
Stop the clock, you guys. Stop. I can't. Come on, guys. It's April 15th.
What?
We got busted like 2 weeks ago, guys. I mean, come on. Look at these comments here. Look at these comments. It's like, are you guys fooling? No way. Fool me once. I assume this has something to do with the 1st of April. Come on, guys. We got busted already. So what are we doing here?
Okay. All right.
You got us.
I mean,
there isn't, sadly, a Michael Berryman Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
We made it up out of whole cloth and AI.
Yeah, and people got it figured out a little too fast. But wouldn't that have been great if there was a Michael Berryman Nightmare on Elm Street?
The imagination.
Cheer up, Marcus.
And you know what? There's still a chance. I'm hoping that our stupid prank, for I call it May Fool's Day, is because we're taking so long to articulate this joke. Is I would love for Michael Berryman, for like his agent, to get a call from like somebody at Shudder, and it's like, guys, did you see that prank? Let's do this, and then like a year from now, we are doing an hour on the new Michael Berryman film of Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe we'll see.
Well,
stranger things have happened.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to come out of stretching a joke for so long.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going.
It kind of got a little awkward because we weren't able to record right away after we dropped the joke. So then now it's 2 weeks later. Yeah, so we didn't really plan it out too well. But anyway, what should we do? I don't know what to do. We're here. We're recording. I mean, we were planning on committing to an hour on a fake movie, and I think Marcus, clear heads prevailed. Marcus did kind of talk us down, but I was interested in the challenge. But look, this all started. We just love Michael Berryman. I'm a fanboy. I saw him speak once. He's very funny and cool, and he's just such a great presence.
We
met him and hung out with him, right? Yeah, and I saw him speak, and he's a legend. And so I don't know, I don't know. I mean, Michael Berryman's something, he did make an appearance in our One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest episode.
We already did that movie though.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean, he's also, I mean, Hills Have Eyes is kind of one of the main reasons people know him. I mean,
that's where he broke. That's his big movie. That's his
Can
Jailhouse
we do a
Rock.
whole hour on that movie though?
Should we just fucking do it?
I could alone.
Really?
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it. I could watch it blindfold and tell you guys every shot. Like, okay, and then this is this part, and this part.
I love it too. I mean, we could just fucking rip it. Should we just rip it?
Yeah, let's do. I mean, you know, the one good thing about Hills Have Eyes, it actually exists. It's a real film.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Let's
it has
do it.
that advantage.
All right, restart this
Let's
shit.
go.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back. It's one fucking hour time. I'm Evan Husney. We got Tom.
Right.
We got Marcus. We're going to be doing episode 62, 1 fucking hour on The Hills Have Eyes from 1977, starring our homie, Michael Berryman. All right. I'm going to start this
Mike
clock
Berryman.
for fucking real. You guys ready? All right. Here we go. Clock is starting now. All right. So, Tom, since we're freestyling this,
Yes.
and you know every frame of this goddamn movie, knock it off.
I know it very well. Yeah. Okay.
Can
I guess
you-
the briefest synopsis is. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, can you hit us with a synopsis?
Well, it's so it's 1977. It's we got Wes Craven here is coming off of making a truly monstrous exploitation sort of horror classic, The Last House on the Left, from 1972, and this is his follow up 5 years later. And it's funny. I mean, he didn't lose any of the punch of a movie like Last House, because this film is Hills Have Eyes is really vile. And really still kind of like, yikes, kind of like a dark energy here. And very like, I guess it's realistic in its own way. It's just very grim. And it's a very simple story. It's kind of a fairy tale. You know how Last House on the Left is actually the same kind of folklore that, Bergman's Virgin Spring, which we did.
That's right.
It's based on. So that's, Last House. This is based on a legend of a Scottish clan. The name escapes me. Like, I think it's like Seamus O'Beanie or something like that.
Yeah,
like
it's the Shawnee Bean family. That's
Shawnee
right.
Bean, right?
That's what I
So it's
remember,
this
yeah.
clan, and this patriarch is a big, the legend is the big cannibal family. Like they were sort of like cannibal Highlanders, and there'd be people going from one location to another with coachmen, and they'd get knocked off and friggin' eaten in big pots up in Scotland. So. Let's keep in mind always that Wes Craven was a teacher before getting into grindhouse films, amazingly, and so he's a pretty literary guy for that world, and he would call, and he continued to do this, by the way. The origin of Nightmare on Elm Street, for instance, is some kind of some third world country's legend of how dreaming works. Maybe it's Bali or something like that. And so it's a continual thing in his career to draw upon more literary and historical folklore. And it's the same case here. And he just transposed this kind of medieval tale from Scotland and put it in mid 70s Southwest America, the desert. And boy, that's killer. That's a killer little kind of thing to do. And it's a very simple story. And I think that and again, it's like a fairy tale, and that it repeats also Last House, in that there's two families. So we're going to get into that. Like, there's this one family that's going in their camper van to LA, to California from the Midwest or something. And they get stopped, the thing breaks down, the camper, and they're preyed upon by this group that lives up in the hills, and they prey on these poor folks, and they, their plan is to pick them off and eat them up,
Yeah.
And so you've got two warring clans, and it's
Right.
really that simple of a story. It's folkloric, it's fairy tale kind of, and it was a big hit, and it did break the guy of the hour that we're talking about here, Michael Berryman. Was the poster boy. He was the face of this film.
He was.
And it's an indelible image. I mean, he'll freak you the frick out just to look
Yeah.
at him. He makes this great appearance in the film. The first scene, he pops up, and I think audiences in 1977 at drive-ins were like, "What am I looking at?" He just turns to the camera. And they must have been like, what the hell is going on? Is this makeup? I mean,
True.
God bless Michael Berryman. He's afflicted with like 18 maladies,
I have some,
but he's
yeah.
a great guy. Yeah, but we'll get into that. But I'm just saying that this one was a huge phenomenon, a drive-in classic, and it's still it was pretty. He made a film that's just about as extra tough as Last House was. So kudos to him for doing a super 1-2 punch in 70s extreme horror cinema.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man. It's that was what kind of shocked me. Watching it when I watched it the last time was like, man, like it's so brutal. Like this movie is like so.
That's the word I couldn't think of.
It's very brutal, but it's also visceral in that, but it slow burn. Like it really takes its time building the tension until it explodes literally for the back half of the movie.
I would love to talk about how this film unfolds. I think actually what's interesting about this film to me is Last House is 72. And then Chainsaw breaks about 73. Texas Chainsaw Massacre breaks about 73 into 74, and it's huge. And in a weird way, it's he's definitely, and I know they were conscious of this. Wes and his creative team, Peter Locke, I think, was the producer, I think they were absolutely conscious of can you do a Chainsaw Massacre? So there's a lot of that, and I guess what I'm trying to say, just to piggyback on what you're saying, is I'm a huge fan of the first half hour of a horror film very often because of that foreboding and unfolding. And then sometimes I lose interest. Sometimes by the end it's like, like the girl's getting chased and it's okay. But like there's nothing like both these Hills and Chainsaw where it's like all these like wide shots and it's like people who don't know there's something really bad happening like not very far away, and this film is like that.
Well, yeah, before maybe we get into the just breakdown of the flick and maybe talk about some of the origin stories of some of the creative minds that put this movie together, I wanted to tag you in, Marcus, just to sort of talk about what's your take on Hills Have Eyes in general?
Oh, sorry. There's like some terrifying screaming going on outside my house. So I was like, it was kind of mirroring the film for a second.
What?
Excuse me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this for real? Are you okay?
Is a disaster.
Can we pause for a second for real?
Okay. Are you serious?
Pause it for once. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Hold on. Just pause for a second. Hold
okay. Oh my God.
Okay.
What is happening?
I think we're getting pranked, Evan.
Yeah, I know.
Because he's got Michael Berryman there, and he's going to walk in the camera. Yeah, what's going on?
It was really scary because you've got all these vivid images of that film and all of the terrifying things that happen to like that family and the baby and stuff, and then there's just like this terrifying, hysterical screaming.
So what is
outside
it?
My house, and I don't know. It's not coming from my. It's not coming from my house. It's not.
So who cares?
Anymore,
yeah. So fuck that shit.
But
we're gonna
got
have
my
to
brain like spinning, with like.
I'm getting scared.
So.
All right. Well, we got to do some maintenance here. So I guess the
all right.
clock.
Well, let's start it up. Marcus, what's your just kind of general overall take on The Hills Have Eyes?
I liked it. I think it's good. I'm not like a super fan. I think it's a really strong exploitation horror movie for the year. Like you can tell the filmmaking's on a really high level, like on the low budget, and it's shot on 16, but it looks good. And like I think the actors, like a lot of them, you don't see them in other things, like you do Berryman. He's like the most famous one, right? So
one of them is in E.T., right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Who's that?
What's her name again?
What's her name?
she's
D.
good.
Wallace. D. Wallace.
D. Wallace.
Right.
Yeah, D. Wallace.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I like her. I didn't pick up on that, but no, I think it's a good movie. I think it's a great movie. Really for its time, really well made. Like when we're I don't know. When we're deciding to do it tonight, I was kind of like not so sure how much I was going to be able to talk about it, but
Okay.
I like it. I don't know.
All right. Actually, we're all over the place, Evan. If you'll indulge me, this would, I think, be fun. I do have something of an origin story in that I saw it, as a kid.
Go for it.
So, okay, so there's just a few brief things. It's like, because because this did haunt me. Like, and he Michael Berryman haunted me. So there were TV spots when I was really little. When I was a really little kid, there would be a TV spot, and it was like him. And so like suddenly he was on my television.
Story of an American family who lost everything.
You know, it was like Cocoa Puffs, I Love Lucy, and then oh, we're gonna eat your baby. And I remember that I was so freaked out that I actually, embarrassingly, my mother was talking to her friend, and they were just chatting about movies, and I went, "There's this one though, I don't know. There's TV commercials for it, and they just talk about eating babies." And my mom and her friend were like, "It's just a movie. Like, God, these movies today, it's just awful." I remember that very clearly. Wow. I was very upset. They're eating babies in movies. So I'm obsessed though. Of course, the way this works is I was like, well, I kind of got to see this. So only a few years later, I was still really young, and I did the most insane movie thing up to that point in my life. I saw in the TV guide that The Hills Have Eyes was on at 1 a.m. on a Friday. Yeah. So I stayed up and watched not all of it. I think I did the first hour, but it was horrifying, as I'd never been up that late like in my life. And it was on, and I think my mom was even like out of town or something. So I was all alone at like 2 a.m. watching Hills Have Eyes, and it was great. And it was maybe the last film that really scared me. You know what I mean? I was like 11 or 10 or something. Yeah. And then, but I'll never forget this. I had a paper route Saturday morning, so I was fucking exhausted. And people were getting their paper at like noon, okay, because I slept in. And I just remember I went home and I was so exhausted, and I was like, well, what's on TV now? Because that's how I rolled back then. And Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Bee Gees movie, was on. So I'll always have a connection with The Hills Have Eyes and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, because I had this bookend of watching one and then continuing with the other.
What a time.
I thought that might come up in your guilty pleasures, actually. I was thinking about you.
I don't know how I feel about it. I only like it in the context with Michael Berryman and the Hills. So anyway, I have a real soft spot for I have a real fondness for this film. And like I was saying before, maybe to start the conversation about the filmmaking, is like I was saying, I watched not all of it. I guess I watched the first hour, and that's what really got me. Because of the silence and the grimness and like the wind blowing in the lonely desert and little synth sounds with the wind. Right? That's how the film works. You know, like, yeah. You know, and so that's what was really engaging me. Like, I'll be specific and leave it to you guys. Like, again, the unfolding of the film's world, which I love in horror movies. And like it's actually with that old codger, that really old man, you know, like, he was like the devil and I split his head open. You know, that guy runs the gas station, and he's being hounded by, a couple of the kids, you know, like Pluto and like one of the other guys. And like they're running around like little desert rats, and you sort of see them for 2 frames, and you hear a shuffling, and then the old man's hearing it, and you just feel he's very alone. And if you were there, there wouldn't be anything for miles. The old man, you, and like scurrying unseen creepazoid people who like smell like apes, you know, or whatever the old man's saying. So that unfolding stuff just I think is so beautifully done. And it's the music, it's the because like Marcus, you were saying, it's a pretty handsome film, I would say. And you're right, that's 16 millimeter, and it is, I'm sure, very low budget, probably a porno film budget. It was kind of a porno film
I think it's a little more than that. I think it's a little more than that.
Not much. You know what? Really not much.
Wasn't the equipment borrowed from a porn? I think I read that.
Yeah, because Peter Locke did porno. Actually, you know, Wes Craven did porno. Like he was involved in them. He worked on porn films after Last House under a pseudonym. He was in Fireworks Woman was one of them, I believe.
He's in them, right? Isn't he also in them?
I think so. Not non-performing, but he's in it. But anyway, so I'm just saying that, like, for a low-budget film, like there's some really great filmmaking on display here, and I think it's evidenced as well as anything in how, again, the horror unfolding. That's all I'm really trying to say.
Yeah, and the coverage, you know, the editing. They're like, they're doing that like classic. Hit the gas, see the wheels spinning. You know, like. Great. And a lot of exploitation movies just show the car like slowly pulling away and then speed it up afterwards or something. But you could see him trying to use the budget effectively. Case in point, like there's like they are in the mountain range, like where the bombers are going through. And I've been to that kind of desert before, out by Salton Sea. There's a place called like the Chocolate Range, and there's this no man's land. You can't go. The map is blacked out. It says like bombing range, and over the Chocolate Mountains or whatever. And so it's freaked me out being there. Actually, like whoa, it feels very weird. But like so the family's driving really fast on those roads, trying to get away from the planes or the jets that are bombing. You don't actually see a bomb drop, like you don't actually see you just see the camera, people acting, and you see the planes going by, camera shaking, car driving fast. But you never see the explosions, but you still understand what's happening. You still feel it. You still feel the
and it's all through the magic of filmmaking. Good point.
So he could see it, like, okay, we can do this. Like I can write this, and you write it in the script that there's like some bombings going off, and I can do it. Or the crucifixion, they thought of a way to do it that is like the audience he's leaving some room for the audience to imagine what's happening, rather than lingering on their low budget, which I think is a huge problem for me in a lot of low budget like horror movies or whatever, is people just get really into the latex and they just want to spend like 5 minutes
and they just stick
on
the camera in front of
like
a Grand Guignol kind of thing. Totally. Right. And actually just another little teaser into like some of the great things about this, the filmmaking here is, again, the sound design and just the whole world of like CB radio transmissions. That's another kind of like creepy deserty thing. Like you're all alone, but you're hearing like, also, I'm going to eat the toes, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well,
because it's unseen, but it's heard, and it's like heard with the sound of the wind in the desert. It's very creepy.
Yeah.
All these details are adding up very, very nicely into creepy stuff,
Yeah, and it's also I just like the detail of the when you bringing up the idea of like the planes, flying over, like when the dad's driving with the family and everything, and it's like this weird kind of very kind of realistic moment of like when you're on the road and you don't know where the fuck you are, you're in the middle of nowhere, and like you just have this general sense of raised anxiety about that to begin with. But then there's like these like, dive bombing fucking jets flying over you. That's probably
buzzing you.
Extremely loud and disorienting, and just like that's a cool choice of like, that's what wigs them out enough to like crash the car,
Right.
I kind of dig that choice. There's a lot of like weird choices like that I dig, like that are the plot driven ones, in this movie. And
again, it's world building. Like it's establishing this sort of unease, like the world of, again, I mean that literally, like the world building, like what is the world that is Hills Have Eyes? Because there's nothing else. You never see a traffic light, or like there's no police. It's like this alien world. And one of the few components, I'm glad you brought it up, is like these creepy, huge military, bombers, and that's about it. It's almost like a Twilight Zone. It's like
I like how
planet.
there's like 3 locations basically. There's the gas station, which, like you mentioned, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They also stop at a gas station at the beginning of that movie, right? So that's one. That's one location. The other one is like basically the trailer, which they could drop anywhere and shoot that, right? And then there's the pile of boulders, that wonderful, amazing Mojave Desert pile of boulders. Beautiful. Joshua Tree, Victorville, whatever it was, like. Boulders, and those are basically the 3 locations, and they got a whole movie out of it, right? It's pretty amazing.
And then there's also there are some brief interiors that I love of the crazy cannibal clan's home. Oh, the cave, the cave. Right. By the way, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think the guy's name is Bob Burns.
You're bringing up so many things that I want to get.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, go ahead. Yeah, Bob Burns did the art direction. Both. Go ahead. Let's do it. Rock on.
No. It's just like you guys have all hit like 800 things that I'd love to get into one by one. Let's just back up to the beginning of where we were talking about the movie unfolding and how it unfolds, because it's like I think maybe one of the things, maybe why you resonated with it, Tom, when you saw it when you were younger, and it's the same thing when I revisited it and was watching it. It's like it's really cool how like ethereal they sort of make the location, and they they really take their time building the dread. And what I think what's really cool is it reminds me of like Fata Morgana, with like Herzog, or it even reminds me of Walkabout too. And I'm sure I know that was a formative movie
that is
for
a
you.
Great call.
And that was a
I
movie
saw that. I saw it when I was like 5 years old. Yeah.
And that was one of our early episodes. We did 1 fucking hour shout out on Walkabout. And so it really does, build like the scene and the setting as a character, which I think they do really well. And I think that it's kind of like even more of like a nightmarish version of Walkabout. And just like and you sort of think about the conditions that the crew was in when they were filming this movie. It's insane. Like it's completely oppressive. Going out and shooting a movie.
It was really hot.
Yeah, in the middle
even
of
more than we can imagine.
Yeah, like going out and shooting a movie like in those conditions, where there's no relief. It's like blazingly hot, over 100 degrees every day, and then it freezes at night. It's down at 30 degrees. Not probably having the budget they had. They probably didn't really have the proper elements to the proper resources to fight the elements. And so it's I think it's just crazy. I think it's something that we maybe take for granted now. But like to be a low budget movie, a true low budget movie with a handful of people, a dozen people in your crew, to go out into the desert and come back with a movie, is pretty.
It's gonzo filmmaking all the way.
It is, yeah.
And everyone has to commit, from the actors to behind the scenes. Everyone has to commit. Again, just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that was a very overheated endurance for no money for anyone and a real gamble for everyone, and all the way up to the top, the financiers, so it's a bit of madness, and those days are long gone. So roll the dice and
a lot of effort that goes into something.
Put your life on the line. So I was going to say, spoiler alert. Well, just spoiler alert on like how bad it was for Michael Berryman. We can get into this Michael in general more maybe in a minute. It's another chapter, but just to give you guys an idea out there, Michael does have I think literally 36 medical maladies, physical maladies.
It's 26.
And,
yeah.
Okay, 26. And one of them is he has no sweat glands, from what I understand. And so, a guy who can't sweat, and it's 120 degrees.
Yeah.
So this poor guy, I think they had to keep just pouring water over his head, whatever it was for him to get relief, because it wasn't an air conditioned trailer, but I guess he committed and really believed in it.
Yeah.
And he does a great job. So anyway, that's how hard it was for him.
Yeah. The thing, just a little quick backstory on Michael Berryman, because I don't want to get off of it. If maybe now's the time to really talk about him.
Why not? Let's do it.
Like I was mentioning, he was born with 26 different birth defects. This is what his deal is. He was born premature. And I guess the way that he explains it is that his cranium wasn't fully formed, and they had to have all of this reconstructive surgery to his head. And, you're talking about like spacers and bone implants and everything. And I'm watching an interview that Michael Berryman's doing about this movie and about his life. And he's like, yeah, it was spacers, bone implants, and
so I had to have some reconstructive surgery, and there's the fissures on the side of my head from where they cut through with the scalpel and spread the skull apart, and then put some bone spacers in there, and it fully developed, and that's how we got the face that we got.
And that's just how we got the face that we got, and that's how he puts it.
Wow. Like it was somewhat constructed. It wasn't just born of birth defects.
This is how we got the face, that we got. It's just like he says, how he says we.
One thing about him, again, we love Michael Berryman, but I will say that when you're first as his visage unfolds to the viewer, like it was his face, as I maybe said before, was like the audiences at drive-ins were like, what the fuck? But what got me was there's a point where he's holding you see, maybe you don't even see his face yet, but you see this hand gripping one of these CB radios. And it's like a hand. The fingertips are very stubby, and there's no finger nails. It's like, and I was just staring at that, like, what is happening? Because I was like, that ain't makeup, because like you'd have to, it'd be fake fingers,
I remember that he doesn't have fingernails. Like we met him, we shook his hand and stuff. He was actually talking about it that day. He was talking about like, he's super nice, very nice person.
I love him.
He's like, I think he's one of those celebrities that sort of like knows their effect on people, so he goes out of his way to be super nice. Do you know what I mean? And like, and he talks very openly about like all of his,
Sure.
whatever happened to him when he was
He's
born.
very well
Mentioned
adjusted.
The fingernails. He's super adjusted. He's like a regular guy. You know, he was wearing
Right.
a leather jacket. He was
Yeah.
like looking Mr. Cool, and he was telling a lot of great stories. I don't remember all of them. He talked about. But one of them I do remember specifically. He was talking about working with Deodato, like the director of Cannibal Holocaust, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember what he was working on him with, but he was
Cut
saying
and
that-
Run was the
Cut
film.
and
that
Run.
he
Okay,
was in.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, he was saying that like Deodato, like I remember reading about him that he was like a real sadistic type director, and Berryman said, yeah, he totally was, and he's like, I had to like stop the shoot because he was sort of like. He had this woman, and she was like uncomfortable, and Deodato was being very like, Berryman was saying that he was being very
Italian.
very rude to the woman or whatever, and that Berryman stopped the shoot and said like, I'm not going to shoot this scene. You know, you
Right.
gotta like make her comfortable, let her take a break, whatever. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
he could throw his weight around to and stick up for his fellow actors. You know,
Yeah, that's
and
great.
He was such a nice guy, and I was thinking I can't ever see this movie without thinking about meeting him, And one thing that was kind of going in my mind the last time I was watching it's like, like this movie draws on the kind of the stock characters of like the hideously deformed people that are monsters inside. It's like it's a trope. It's an old trope. Like Richard III is like the hunchback, right? And like the deformed people are always sort of the monsters in old
the
movies and
freaks.
stuff.
The movie
Right,
Freaks ends.
Right. It's sort of an old trope. Maybe it's kind of it's not in fashion right now to do that kind of stuff. I don't think, but
Like exploitation.
I was kind of thinking about like now we're sort of in an era where like we find out that evils like can be really banal, like the banality of evil. It's really just some like
Right.
normal looking guy in a business suit or something is the most evil
Well-
person on the planet. So that kind of stuff was going through my head while I was watching this movie last time. It's like that it's tapping into that stuff, and I'm gonna go to Evan who's got some thoughts on this, I guess.
Thank you. Before we get derailed into a different subject. Okay. So yeah, because Tom, off the top of the episode, you were talking about like what this movie is based on. That it is based on either I don't know if it is a fable or if it's like a real story. I think it might actually be a real story.
I
think it's real.
But
Yeah, I
maybe
think it's
exaggerated.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Sweeney Todd is real, but probably
Right.
exaggerated.
Yeah.
The
So
Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
yeah. So what is really interesting, is basically is the Shawnee Bean family, and I'm gonna give you just a quick backstory on this and how it kind of dovetails into, how it sort of dovetails into what you're picking up on, Marcus. So it's 16th to 17th century feral cannibalistic family that would prey on travelers is the story. They would eat people, they would eat the horses, and they lived off of a cliff, facing the road. And this was, like you were saying, in Scotland or somewhere in England. But what happened was that they were discovered and they were living in a cave and the whole thing. And then when they were discovered, they went back to the king and said, "There's these crazy cannibals out there. We got to do something about this." So they formed an expedition to go find them, and they went to go find them. And then what did they do? Of course, they captured them. They brought them back to London. They fucking hanged them. They put the women on torture wheels. They dismembered them. And they did all these hideous, horrible, terrible,
Drawn and quartered, probably.
slow death sort of things. And so, obviously what resonated with Wes Craven, in researching this and finding the inspiration, because basically he was told like, hey, by the producer, let's make a horror film. We got to make a horror film. You can write a horror film. You did Last House. You can. And he was kind of hesitant. He was like, I don't know if I want to relive the controversy of what happened with Last House. And so he tried to find inspiration, but they basically were like, let's make something in the desert. That was the starting point. So then he found this source material, and what really resonated with him was the idea of juxtaposing how what civilization did to the savage people, and how, and even though these savage people are cannibals and they did fucked up shit, the actual civilized people were much more brutal and much more, violent.
And the deformities the deformities in the film of that family, the causation is the atom bomb tests in the area.
Right.
I mean, that's like a direct, that's what the old codger grandpa says, is his news clippings, of like, families that were born, it's that's actually a classic post, Hiroshima trope of horror. Godzilla is one of them.
Totally.
That's Godzilla was a way of Japan psychologically processing, the atom bombs dropping.
Right.
And it was he was a mutation. He's just a lizard, but he's mutated from the atom bomb, and so it was a fascination of the second half of the 20th century. And this film is part of
the
that
Cold War paranoia of nuclear,
more just like what hath man wrought. Like we made super weapons, and not only do they blow people up, but now we're like mutating, like it's like pollution is analogies to pollution and nuclear testing.
It's
nuclear
also
waste.
I think on top of that, I think it also is similar to Texas Chainsaw in many ways. I mean, in several ways, it's similar to Texas Chainsaw, but also in the idea of what we talked about on that episode when we did Texas Chainsaw. Shout out to that; it's in the archives.
Oh yeah,
when we did that. It is also examines that class war kind of idea too, of like the, modern family, the suburban family, that has the camper and everything, running through this kind of sort of backwoods area or in the desert area with all these people and contrasting, like modernity and all that stuff and how these are clashing class war kind of situation.
It's a film of two families,
Right. That's what you said. Yeah.
I guess and to circle back to what Marcus was saying though, just real quick, just to put a button on it, let's not forget, all of us, what the last note of the film that is struck, which is just like Last House on the Left, in that and Virgin Spring, the Bergman film, is the barbarism that can be conjured in the modern and civilized peoples,
right?
If they're pushed to the edge and they're threatened, they're killed, they're maimed, they're hurt, they will exact, the vengeance of God, and that's the last shot of this film. Is not Michael Berryman like stabbing somebody with a fork. It's actually the middle class, like divorced dad mustache guy, like little league coach, is like going and he's like,
he looks like Harry Shearer to me. He looks more like Harry Shearer.
And he's
Sonny Bono.
Pudgy Harry Shearer. and he's Sonny Bono with the pot belly. And he's like, and it's psychotic and it goes like solarized and single, or, stop frame. And so that's the note that Wes Craven wants to end on, is that these guys are fucking bananas too when push comes to shove.
I think it's doing a meta thing too, because we are like, as the audience members, we get sucked into it too, and then we like to see these people like get revenge on the people that have done things to them. You know what I mean? Like when the dog goes after, when the dog kills a couple people, right? Every time the dog kills somebody, I'm kind of like, yes.
I love how the dog is a character.
That they killed the dog.
Beast.
So, yeah, so I think that's got some. I think that he's making us feel like we're the monster. It's revealing that the audience likes to see that these people are being tortured. And as Americans, I think a lot of times we are like, throw them in jail and torture them or whatever. There is that sort of thread that runs through this country. And I feel like maybe it is showing like a little bit, it's doing that cinema thing where it reflects back at us, our true inner selves too, because we become those people that would overkill somebody that like took our baby or whatever, and I think it makes us feel that those same emotions as the audience, and that's probably part of like what's going on with Wes.
I do also love kind of just the touch of it, whether it's what he thematically had in mind or not. I just love that, in the film you have one dog, Beauty gets killed. That's kind of the first big tipping point moment is when one of the dogs runs off, and then of course homeboy Bobby
Beauty's dead.
Beauty's dead. What? Beauty's been dead since this afternoon.
The young
Bobby?
brother Bobby, that's a good performance when he has to like finally confess up, like Beauty's dead.
Which happens way after.
Because Bobby's having a very weird experience that's outside of the rest of the family, because he's going out there in the rocks looking for Beauty, and he's seeing like messed up stuff.
He's Mark Hamilling hard to me. He's like
he is. I
he's a
know.
blonde boy with a bowl cut.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
totally.
It's and with the high like sports
77.
socks with stripes. And,
Like
and-
playing a little younger than he should be, probably. You know, like
yeah, sure. I love Bobby though. Bobby's my dude. Okay,
So
sorry.
but yeah, so it's but I just love the concept in the movie of like Beauty gets killed, the dog dies, right? But then it's up to the other dog, the beast, to get its revenge,
Right.
you know,
That's
for
right.
the other
Right. That's
dog.
true.
And that's so fucking cool. I've never seen that in a movie before. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
and it's very.
But I think the
it's a little bit-
simplest thing is, to me, I don't see anything other than just like I think what Wes is simply saying, very with all three films, Last House, Virgin Spring, is that we distance and other people who are criminals and do things like eat babies. We other them, but they're still just human beings. You know, Donald Trump's still a human being, as hard as it's to consider. But,
Yeah.
and as we all are human beings. And so, or anybody, you know, like Jeffrey Dahmer, we're all human beings. So it's like, but we do this distancing thing when we're comfortable in a civilized society. And
he doesn't
but
offer
when you
any
push,
redemption
then-
for them except for Ruby, I guess. But you know,
what?
he doesn't offer them any redemption. You know, he doesn't offer us to feel for them. I don't think. You know, like,
No, but all I'm saying is he's just like, guess what? Scratch. I'll just say this: scratch a civilized person, you know, and you'll find Michael Berryman. That's I think it's that simple.
That's what
thesis,
he's.
you know.
That's what he's
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah. That's what he's saying. Yeah.
It just one quick second, because you mentioned the class warfare thing. It's really interesting to me that it is like, you know, dirt poor against middle class, you know, because that is sort of the politics and that keeps this country deadlocked too, is like the rich are not even mentioned, you know, and it's like this, it's the lower classes fighting amongst themselves, you know. And I thought that was it. You know, if it is class warfare, it's interesting that it's on that level and not like
Side note: I want to say this is just about my favorite depiction of lower middle class people. You know, he's a retired cop, and they're from like God knows, like Youngstown, Ohio, or something. You know,
Love it.
And like I grew up with shit like that. You know what I mean? Like that strata of society, I know very well. And God damn it, they nailed it. The way they look, the way they talk, like the lunches that they make. You know, like ham and cheese sandwiches on white bread. You know, and
those
like,
grandma's cookies.
yes, yeah, mother's cookies. That's what they're called.
Okay, that's what it is.
Oh, I used to eat those fucking cookies from Lucky's, you know, and Safeway. No, so that depiction, and that's the thing. Just one last thing about that is that Wes made sure to paint a picture and to have that, like we're saying, social strata fully articulated. Like what I mean by that is like, you know what? Last House on the Left, they're rich. Actually, or at least Mary, the lead girl, and the parents, they're actually, just to speak to what you're saying, Marcus, they are rich. They're like, they had a nice country home in like Connecticut, but these people are like fucking like Youngstown, Ohio, blue collar, you know, and he really paints a picture. You know, the N-word is dropped. Like the cop sounds like a real doucher, actually.
Yeah.
Like the cop father, you know, and he's like making gross jokes about the inner city and stuff. And it's just, and the mom is like, God, the mom is so beautifully rendered that like Edith Bunker kind of style, where like they're just oblivious to everything. Like, well, let's all have some more lemonade, okay? After like their daughter says she's pregnant, you know, that type of thing. It's not in the movie.
Yeah. Well, here's something I was hoping we could have gotten in more close to the top of the show, and it's a good segue for it about the family. Is that, you know, they are inspired from Wes's own family, and let's just get let's just do a little. I have a little. Just for people who be listening might not know a lot about Wes Craven. I think it's interesting, and we should mention it here. And then maybe we can kind of segue from there into just some of my favorite moments in this movie, because we only got 20 minutes to hit them. So, and there's tons of them. So with Wes Craven, it's, you know, really interesting because, you know, he grew up in a fundamentalist Baptist church. I mean, his mom was very close to the mom depicted in the film, you know, in terms of how religious she was, and, you know, and kind of, I gather, protected him from a lot of things in, you know, pop culture and movies and things like that. He actually, I don't know if you know this, but with exception to Disney movies, he actually did not see a movie in a theater until he was a senior in college.
That's nuts.
No, that's crazy. That's actually not unlike Paul Schrader.
Yeah.
And Todd. I believe Todd Solondz didn't see anything until
That makes sense,
except
though.
the Brady,
That makes
Brady
sense.
Bunch until NYU Film School. Wow, killer
So
deprivation leading to great filmmaking.
Yeah, great creativity. Yeah, so he started seeing the movies in college. He got addicted. He was on track to basically become a PhD. Like he was on track to become, a lifelong scholar and a writer. But he got addicted to movies. He really got into Fellini and he got into Buñuel and all this stuff because it was the 60s and that was happening. Bergman. And he dropped out of college. And he was married with 2 children and then started picking up movie making and started buying a camera and seeing movies and started making shit. And everyone thought he was crazy. He dropped out. The person, in his college, whoever he's working under, thought he was absolutely insane. And he went to New York and he just was like, I got to get into it somehow with all of this, which is just so crazy. Yeah. And that's when he meets Sean Cunningham, obviously, of Friday the 13th, fame. Mm-hmm. And then they had the opportunity to, make a movie. And then of course Wes went and did Last House and the rest is history. It's just crazy that that's where he's coming from as a filmmaker. And
I know,
and I think that understanding of that family to kind of bring it full circle into what the sort of themes and statements he's making with that. And I think it's actually brought to me, I was chuckling knowing that going into rewatching it, I was laughing at, and this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, is really when Berryman and his homeboy, help me, Jupiter, I get all their names mixed up.
Mars is the guy with the kind of curly hair.
The fro, okay.
And the weird teeth, who's actually the most frightening guy to me.
He is, hands fucking down. Yeah,
holy
he is.
Shit. Tiny side note.
Please.
If he's in like Every Which Way But Loose or something, or like he's in like a Burt Reynolds movie, and when you see the actor who plays Mars without the teeth, the fangle teeth and the black afro, unrecognizable, and it's incredible the job he did, because he's like, oh, that's some good meat, oh yeah, like
baby's fat, you fat, fat and juicy.
That's one of the great terrifying performances, and he's unrecognizable when you see him in other movies. It's such a trip. Please cut to that.
I will, before I lose my train of thought.
Sorry, Mars is the guy, Mars.
Yeah, so evidence of everything I was just sort of saying is I think it's like that scene when they're in the camper where it's Mars and Berryman and they're raising hell, which is a scene I really want to get into because it's so insane.
Let's do 10 minutes on it, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally insane. But the thing I was going to say is that there's that moment when Berryman flips out, and he fucking rages and starts fucking destroying the camper from within.
Throwing the food everywhere.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, that's like kind of Wes in a way being like, fuck this, plastic bullshit, in a way. And
it's kind of like Zabriskie. It's like the end of Zabriskie Point when everything's blowing up.
Yeah. That's what
you guys know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Like the slow motion explosion in the desert of because I think Wonder Bread explodes at the end of Zabriskie Point.
It's amazing.
And I always think of that,
yeah,
with Michael Berryman in the kitchen.
But that fucking scene, dude, is so crazy, because at first it opens up with, you don't really know much about these guys. Like, there's that amazing scene that we should touch on real quick before we get into the headliner here, is there's that amazing scene when the dad opens the door and finds Grandpa Fred hanging from the, that also is like, what the fuck? He's like
hanging by his own hand.
Yeah,
right. He's like, what are you friggin' doing? Stop hanging yourself. And he's like, oh, God damn it. Oh. It's so twisted.
That's mental. You don't see many
so mental.
You don't see scenes where people are like stopping the other in mid hang.
I know. Those two actors are really killing it. Shout out to the old coot actor, who's seen later in Cheech and Chong's next movie. I love that guy.
Oh, really?
That's a good performance by that.
Oh, it is. Cooter. Oh, he is. And he's like this total like pan-seared fucking face too. It's just amazing. Love it. Yeah. Incredible. Like beet red. Anyway, so that scene's incredible, which sort of gives you the first taste of really the savagery of,
the sun's going down, Marcus.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah,
the
sun goes
beginning
down.
of the night.
Yeah,
Right.
And then the guy comes in and he fucking kills him and the whole thing. It's an incredible scene. But that's our first taste of what's to come, right? And then when we get to this scene, we still don't really know like what the deal is with this family, I should say, this clan, right? And then you cut in on the Mars guy who's just like drinking milk and eating the grapes, and then he eats the live bird. And he bites the head off of the bird.
He does it's a circus geek show move. Like
Yes.
he bites the head off the parakeet. Oh, it's good eating. It's horrifying. That's why that guy wins, because he doesn't have any birth defects. Yeah. That guy's incredible. And and you're right. It's like they're chaos agents. You know what I mean? Like there's this perfect little. I'm so glad you and you articulated that. This is maybe a sketch of what Wes grew up in, his family, because he was punk rock blowing it up. And
Right.
slam
That's
dancing.
kind of what I'm thinking. That's kind of what I'm
killer.
thinking.
No, like he's throwing the Wonder Bread all over the room and like tearing the Jaws poster. Tearing the torn Jaws poster is the MVP
classic.
for me. That's such a good image.
That's the best.
But and just that scene of chaos. Go, please.
I was just going to say that fucking scene. Okay, real quick. Watching it back, dude. Okay, so it's so intense, obviously. There's so many things going on. It's insane. It's just brutal that like two of the female characters are shot. Like, first off, like that's just like...
I was stunned. That's another thing that doesn't happen very often. It's like, actually, they're going to die right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like more of that family dies than you are expecting,
Like, this shit hits fucking hard. And then the fucking image of the baby on the floor of the camper is like, man, it's insane. I'm so jaded and seeing so many horror films or modern thrillers or whatever, and it's like that's such a great but crazy and insane simple way to raise the stakes of any scene is just to have a fucking baby on the floor, And
the only other thing,
I'm like, you're worried that they're gonna step on the baby the whole time.
I know.
Like, I'm still worried.
like Michael's going to back up and plant his face right on the kid's head or something.
It's really mental.
Shout out to Fight for Your Life from the same year, 1977. There is a gun pointed at a baby's head in that film. So,
I know.
you're loving this, Marcus, aren't you?
The only father here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're pointing a gun right at the kid's head in that
It does hit different when you have a baby or when you have a kid. Like you start to watch these movies differently. Like when I was
kids,
younger, I was more like
baby's
the baby
juicy.
in that scene, or
it's
didn't faze me
juicy.
at all. But yeah, right.
And
I like how it's contrasted, like the food thing. How it's contrasted with it, like you said, they're eating the cookies. The middle class people are eating that stuff, and then the barbaric people are going to eat a baby,
Eating baby's toes. Okay, I'm gonna do a hostile takeover here. Let's start shouting out. Let's get into that scene, but let's continue and build out the family, the other family, the clan.
Sure.
And there's some MVPs. There's Pluto, I think is his name, and he's on the.
that's Berryman.
That's
Pluto.
Mercury, I think.
Yeah, I think Pluto's Berryman, isn't he?
Oh God. Yeah, you're right. And I'm talking about Mercury. Yeah, Mercury.
Jupiter.
Mars.
Jupiter is the other guy. I think
Oh
you're thinking.
fuck! Who cares? It doesn't matter. So the one that's like a real simpleton, who's like idiotically on the CB, like talking to the other guys who are down in the camper, like, "Oh, you guys got a baby? Hey, this time can I eat the toes?"
Yeah.
That shows to me Wes Craven is like kind of got a punk rock sense of humor. That's getting John Waters time. Yeah. Like he didn't have to go like this weird like mentally deficient like child man in like fur is like rocking back and forth. I ain't gonna eat the toes. Like what am I watching right now? I mean, it's savage and out of control. By the way, I think I'm right. That is the producer of the film, Peter Locke, doing that command performance of
Maybe.
I think he is actually,
It is
and
Peter
it's a
Locke,
great
yeah.
performance. It is
Yeah.
Peter Locke. Okay, great. And so eat the toes. And this
Okay.
is the kind of stuff that freaked me out so much because there is a continuing threat in the film of that baby who we're seeing being cooked. And then your mind starts like thinking like, you could, babies are small. Like they'd be like, what is like a Cornish game hen, like on a spit above one of their a fire.
Oh, he's the parent there.
Well, it's making your head do that,
Yes, it is. It's pretty fucked. But there is this other, because you did real quick, just put a bow on this kind of moment in the movie. you were sort of talking about that this is a tale of two families, you know, and there's a lot of parallels between both of them, which I think is very, very intentional, obviously. And like, there's that awful moment we should mention in all this chaos. You know, the Mars guy walks in on Berryman trying to make moves on the one woman in the camper, right? But he tears Berryman off and says, "You're not a man yet."
You wait till you get to be a man.
You know, or whatever. So there's this question of masculinity in their family. But then several scenes later, you see the same thing play out between the two guys, between, you know, Sonny Bono and Bobby.
What are you doing? Where are you going?
You're not my father. I'm gonna get those bastards.
Where he says the same thing, like, you know, after the crazy scene, which we got to get to, about the dad being crucified. And he's gonna go. He's gonna go get these guys, and he says, "No, wait!" And he's like, "You're not my dad." And so there's like this whole kind of like similar,
You're right. Yeah,
sort
it's
of
true.
parallel between the two families, and this kind of, you know, try to dominating for masculine
Male hierarchies.
control. Yeah, male hierarchies, which is interesting. So he's exploring with that. But guys, this scene of the dad. Well, first off, is so what's shoved down his throat again?
I'm not clear. I haven't
like
seen
a rag or something.
Was it a rag? Okay, I thought it was
Maybe
like
like
an
a rag.
animal. Okay, so maybe it's just a rag.
Oh, maybe.
So something
maybe
goes down his
it's a
throat.
rag.
Yeah, okay, and then he gets crucified. But then we see, dude, the explosion. Okay, first off, there's an explosion, and then they go out, and he's crucified to a tree. Incredible image, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Joshua Tree apocalypse. I know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, but what gets me, again, kudos to Wes, who's so gifted, is to articulate just how brutal and assaultive that this kind of murder is, to be burned alive. I believe there's a nice shot of him. Maybe it's his profile, and he's exhaling smoke. It's like maybe his last breath is like smoke, and it's just like yuck. Yeah. And his cries are awful. Like Marcus was just doing a
It's
cosplay
awful.
of that. Yeah.
I wonder if the brutality of it, like, I wonder if when you write it, like you called that earlier, that he's kind of a piece of shit, like he's an asshole cop from the city, or
fuck him.
whatever. Like, I wonder if that's the reason that you write a character like that, is so that, because you're gonna do something so horrible to them
Maybe.
earlier. If it was a person that you liked, it would be like you
that
wouldn't
would
want to
be
finish
horrible.
the movie.
Well,
Yeah.
but the nice new mom is like shot in the stomach.
And slow death for
But
mom.
she's not crucified, you know. with
No, that's
screaming.
the degree, but it's so brutal to see her. Like she's not really spared too much either. Like relatively speaking,
Yeah, true.
Like because that kills me. Dee Wallace, because I really wasn't expecting when I first saw it to see Dee Wallace die. Like that. It's just she's a new mother.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And she does not make it, and she's and like she's gone. And then a quick shout out to another demented thing in all the chaos of murderous chaos is the mother is also killed, and then the really demented shit is at dawn when they bait the clan from the hills by putting her corpse displayed.
I know.
In front of the tree, like in the lawn chair, and it's like, what am I watching?
I know. That is
It's
really
fucking hardcore shit.
It's fucking
booby
crazy.
trap.
Yeah.
It is
The
interesting,
booby
like
trap.
that trope of like using the booby traps in nature. I wonder how far it's like Predator. You know how at the end of Predator he sets all those traps and stuff. I wonder where that trope comes from. Is that
Wile E.
like,
Coyote, like Roadrunner?
Probably like
Roadrunner.
a Hitchcock thing, or I don't know, and it might go like back into that or something, like Dial M for Murder.
I'm thinking
it's like
cartoons.
It's like people
Okay.
using their brains to like overcome, you know,
Roadrunner.
the brawn of the bad
Right.
guy.
Yeah, the
you know?
cunning. It's always
cunning.
very. It always winds up being something involving gasoline and a big matchstick.
Yeah,
like
no, okay.
striking when a door
Hold on.
opens. That's
That
the trope.
is incredible, by the way. Like, like how
Matchstick door opening.
like you don't see what's just a nice little touch is you don't see the scene of him placing all those things or whatever. You just see a quick shot of like, okay, he's leaving the door, and then we just quickly see the insert of match over, you know, strike pad, you know, or whatever.
Right,
and then in our
right,
minds,
yeah.
we're like, okay, we know exactly what he's thinking when he's doing this. And it is absurd, but it's so absurd you can really get behind it, and you also want to see it. It's like watching like an elaborate dominoes thing on like Instagram or something.
Yeah,
you want to make sure,
exactly.
You want to make
or like,
sure
what
this
is
is really
that?
going to play out.
There's that game Mousetrap. You know what
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah,
about?
it's like a mousetrap
Yeah.
thing.
But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Wes had, I mean this, Roadrunner on his mind, because they're out in the desert, and it
It's
just
probably the only
feels
thing he
like,
was allowed to watch when he was a kid. It sounds like maybe.
Oh,
so.
there you go. Maybe that's it.
I mean, I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God, we've cracked the case. All right. Well, anyway.
But yeah, so that's incredible. The blowing up of the camper is amazing. And then the fucking Fro guy comes out, right? And there's this brutal fight scene. This brutal fight scene, which I got to shout out real quick, because you don't ever really see in a fight scene a body slam being used, like as a fighting tactic. And the Mars guy fucking body slams I think Bobby. I think he just like while they're like struggling, he just like fucking slams them, and it's amazing. So,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's like some weird
shout out to that.
Wes wrestling reference or anything, but it's pretty
Or maybe
weird.
the actor.
See the
the
body
actors,
hit the floor.
Yeah. Let
the
bodies
actor's
hit the
very.
floor, baby.
I wish I could remember, but the actor's in like Every Which Way But Loose, or like
I'll cut to
Smoking
him.
the Bandit 2 or something. Yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, what I'm saying is, I think he's a bit of a Southern good old boy guy. So he might have been like, I got this. I'm going to do a Jimmy Fly Snuka on the guy.
Yeah, it's like so
He might
weird.
Have, he might have added some. Really, he is the MVP to me, because with that line, I'm really being repetitive here, and I don't give a fuck. He's just like, juicy.
Juicy.
When he says that, like,
he's got
that's
good delivery.
chilling.
His
better than the pop.
Good.
He's better than
What's that?
Papa. He's better. He's doing that voice better than Papa Jupe is.
We're not
Papa
even
Jupe-
mentioning Papa Jupe.
Papa Jupe sounds like he's doing a voice a little bit to
A
me.
little bit. No, but Mars is really
Good point.
convincing and selling. Let me get incredibly obscure if I can for 1 second. I always thought that the Papa, the actor, I forgot his name, James Whitmore or something like that, is like, I thought he was more of an actor, but then I looked up the guy who plays Papa in the film, and his other credit mainly is like he was a telephone repairman in the Candy Snatchers. Like
That's right. That's right.
He's not
That's
really
right.
much of an actor, Like
I
he's-
actually saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
That's
anyway,
crazy.
just
Yeah.
like he didn't have much of a past,
Right.
But yeah, what an ensemble! There's also Ruby. Shout out to Ruby, and Marcus was mentioning her earlier, that like she's like kind of on the fence, and that's a classic trope too, of like the person who's kind of like borderlining. You know?
Yeah, well, that's the penultimate moment, right? Like the big moment, like after the dog fucks up Berryman. We have
Achilles tendon trauma.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Ooh, yeah, it's fucked up.
Brutal.
But then you get that whole crazy scene where you got fucking Sonny Bono fighting. I believe that's Jupiter. I don't have their names are all fucked up in my head.
I know.
And like
losing
they're
it too.
fighting, and then Ruby's like, "What am I gonna do? Because I want to save the baby, and
Right.
I'm a
Right.
mother, and blah, or whatever,
Right.
And then they get the snake to do the deed, which is amazing. But then it's so crazy, like you were talking about in that ending moment where it's like, and I had forgot how this movie ended. I literally forgot the ending, and so I'm watching it thinking like, what is the like? I don't remember. Like, do we see them like get rescued?
Right.
Do we see them
What's the
back in
final
Ohio?
note?
Right.
Do they get to L.A.? Like, what's the note? So then I
The cops
forgot.
come?
Yeah, or something. I forgot that it was just Sonny Bono stabbing, and then this fucking amazing flash to red.
It goes like
And it's like
slow mo.
It's kind of reminds me of real quick. It kind of reminds me of Rolling Thunder, only in the way that
Yeah. Okay.
the movie cuts to credits as soon as the homeboys get their revenge.
Right.
And it's like,
Right.
okay, revenge done.
call.
What else is there? To really see.
Straw
in the story?
Dogs do that too.
I think no. There's a postscript on that. I
Right.
think.
It kind of lands, steps down, quieter reduction.
But that's
Not
how
like
to
in
end
such
a fucking
heavy
movie,
note.
though. That's how to end a fucking
No,
movie.
I know. That's
Like,
one of the great '70s endings.
It
Absolutely.
is.
Like Last House doesn't end that. Last House kind of like Last House is what we're talking about a minute ago. Like the cops come in, and it all kind of sorts out in that sense. Like the world is not restored with the final frame of Hills Have Eyes. Actually, to me, it's one of those sort of like 2001 cosmic or Zabriskie Point kind of endings where it just gets abstracted. Where it's like, it's like he's pounding on one of the people in the clan, Sonny Bono guy, and it's not unlike the apes in 2001. You know what I mean? like archetypal human aggression, and it's never going to end. You know, it's a very 70s ending.
It's a bit
Tiny
of a shock
shout out.
ending in that it's not like, you know, you're not. It's not like something unexpected happens, but it's just you're in shock that it's over. You're like, that's it. Like that's
Right.
You know,
That's the final note. Exactly. It's like a prog rock ending. Killer.
Yeah.
Tiny shout out in these last moments of the film. There's like some overt fairy tale stylization when they think they're cradling the baby and it's the pig. You know.
Oh,
Isn't that great? It's so fairy tale to me, right?
I love that.
Very weird. Yeah.
There's I gotta shout something out too real quick. The you know, in this movie of things that are basically seem kind of plausible, the one thing that always sticks out to me is that the dog is doing some serious lassying. You know, they're like,
I know.
All right, you stay here, wait for him to come around, and then get him. You know,
Got
the
it,
dog's
Chief.
like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like hiding out.
I
You
love
see the
that.
dog, like waiting for the right
But
moment.
I love
to
that too.
strike.
I love
No,
that.
I know exactly. Like they have this like communication beyond words. Where
No,
Lassie,
it's great. I love it. It makes you feel
so
good.
cool.
Anytime like you feel so bad the dog that died, you know, that we twist the knife for us, and
Yeah.
you feel so good seeing the dog like you know.
It's
Here comes
literally
Beast.
to me it's such a great exploitation movie, like I'm in a packed theater like cheering on this idea that we've seen the one dog get brutally murdered. It's like there's a little doggy revenge subplot other movie that I'd love to see sometime.
Amazing.
Where it's
Right.
just like one dog gets brutally killed and then here's the other dog going to get the revenge
And
for the
then
other
their
dog.
sibling
And it pays off.
like
It
exacts
pays
revenge.
off.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
And how the beast dog is really treated like a character. Like we really see his POV quite frequently in this movie.
I know.
Which I do really appreciate. I think that's kind of fun.
Tiny shout out, if we're staying on this for a second, the very, very bad sequel, Hills Have Eyes 2, is truly just regular old bad. Like I'm
Never
not
seen
into
it.
But I will say this, Beast is back in 2, and he has a flashback. It's a film that has a dog that has a flashback.
That's cool.
Like you see the dog and it zooms in on the dog's face and he's like, I'm remembering Michael Berryman in the same location. So that's kind of sick. Like it expands on the Beast, archetype.
Just because we have a minute left, I have just one quick shout out because you brought it up earlier and I wanted to make sure we got it in. But one of the actual like real physical bridges from Texas Chainsaw into this movie is Bob Burns, who is the art director. He's usually credited in both films. We went to town on Bob Burns in our Texas Chainsaw Massacre episode, and the archives definitely hit that up. But yeah, it's amazing that I saw an interview with Wes where he talks about how Bob Burns, who's just this freak, he's a total freak who brought a lot of real authenticity, like crazy weird animal parts and bones and things to decorate Texas Chainsaw. But he literally drives up to set with his kit, as he calls it, his kit. And his kit is a truckload of all the camouflage netting from Texas Chainsaw, the skulls, the bones, all that stuff. He had it all just in a giant truck. And so that's his kit. And he brought it in and they just cherry picked all actual props from Texas Chainsaw that were repurposed in this movie.
They decorated the cave of the clan, right?
Right. It's just so cool.
I
that
recognize some things. It's
the same
so cool.
animal bones are in both films.
That is
like,
so dope.
That is cool.
how cool is that? Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, I think Hills
Great.
Have Eyes is a lot better than I thought it would be as a rewatch. Actually, this movie's great.
Okay.
I dig it.
Yeah, for variety of reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we did
And
it,
not-
guys. It wasn't what we
not so
planned
bad.
on, but we did it.
Not so bad for winging it, guys.
Yeah. Well,
Freestyling.
it's not hard for me. It's branded into my consciousness permanently.
Yeah.
We didn't even have to get into the 06 reboot that much. So
No, which I've
Different
never
movie.
seen. Never seen. But
hell no.
But no, but hey, but
Oh,
that is
it's kind of fun.
That's what I was gonna say. Is, I
on
was
its
gonna
own
say,
terms. Yeah,
I have heard that the Neckbeards are real passionate about the Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, that's a
remake.
huge classic of the
And
last 15
you
I
hear
talk to
often,
people still.
it's better than the original. You hear it a
Well,
lot.
they're stupid. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, wow.
like, there's a lot of people who think Texas Chainsaw 2 is better than 1. It's just there's a lot of dummies out there that are like driving cars and speaking English and stuff. It's scary. So no, but like I'm glad I shouted out the sequel to Hills Have Eyes because I love it. I love how bad it is. So I'm glad I got to mention Hills Have Eyes dog flashback. But
okay.
yeah, I mean, we got through it. It's sad there isn't a
I know
Berryman Elm Street, but we are making an appeal on a cosmic and a grounded level. Shudder, if you're listening, like if Michael's in your Rolodex, like it's not
Call
a bad
him up.
idea.
I
Not a
know
bad
that
idea.
would be great. That'd be great. Well, I'm thankful.
Don't let our April Fool's prank go to waste.
Yes,
Basically
please.
what we're saying.
Please. I think Marcus, you were right. We should have added a little grain to that photo in hindsight. 2020, I think would have maybe we wouldn't have gotten called out.
But
so
a
quickly.
2002 film might not have had excessive grain. I mean,
That's true.
You have to really nuance it and get because it could have been shot on video.
Yeah.
In 2002, still, right? Were they doing video by then?
No, but I mean, they would have used film. I would imagine. I would see a film
Still
like
2002
that
film
made in Israel if they're making it in Israel or wherever they're shooting. it.
We could have
No, it
stepped
was,
on it a
no, it was
little bit,
backed.
yeah.
It was Israeli backed.
Okay.
But it was filmed in Belarus.
Okay, Belarus.
Come on.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Fact straight, man.
Okay. I love the idea of doing a 1 fucking hour in a movie that doesn't exist. That was kind of a
I
high
know.
concept.
That will happen someday.
That will happen someday. But let's talk about what is happening next week. So next week, we're going to be doing a real film, a movie that actually exists. We've teased it a couple times on the show previous, getting back into the Martin Scorsese of it all. So next week for episode 63, we're going to be getting into, I think, one of your guys' favorite Marty's, which is After Hours. So Martin Scorsese's After Hours from 1980. Help me, 3? No, 6?
85, I think.
85. I think you're right.
I think it's 85. It's his follow-up to King of Comedy.
That's right. Yeah,
And it'll be
so-
our third Marty movie.
Third Marty. So everybody get your watch in on After Hours or your rewatch and follow along with us. Also, if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, take some time just to click that subscribe button. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we're actually pretty close from what as we are recording this right now. I think we are at, let me take a look. We're at 970. So we only need 30 more subs. 30
That's
more
all?
subs will get us to 1,000, and we're going to do whichever episode lands on that. We are going to do a live rendition of 1 fucking hour. So,
And it's going to be 2 hours on the Sex and the City show, right? Didn't we commit
Garden
to
State.
that? Oh, no.
Well,
We're going to have to do that too at some point, by the way.
yeah, I know. We definitely owe
That
it
was
to the people.
last year's April Fool's was that
Yeah.
we were going to
Right.
do a Garden State, which is,
Yeah.
I guess to us, was an absurd consideration.
Yeah, and we got one person to actually watch it for the show, which is pretty cruel.
Sorry.
Well,
Well,
still feel bad about that.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not kind.
I know it's not at all. So anyway, After Hours, very exciting. Kind of get back into the 80s Marty zone. And so we'll be
We've
doing
been all
that.
over the place lately. Like,
Yeah.
I'm even losing track. Like, we haven't been grounded in our gulch. Like,
I know.
we're a little outside of our gulch, but our gulch is traditionally like 78 to like 82, and like this is a little outside of it. But we're getting closer to like our sweet spot. You know what I mean? And just a big chunky movie. We've been doing high concept things, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, like the wrestling doc recently, and
Guilty Pleasures.
you know, and then like special eps. So let's do like a big succession of just like one chunky movie after another for a while, and I'm looking forward to that. Starting with
Cool.
After Effects.
We could do
After
that.
Effects. Oh my god.
I know.
Tired.
Yeah.
Adobe's our new
Stop.
sponsor.
You're making me think
Or-
about work.
or we could do 1 fucking hour on that last episode of Succession too. We could do that as well.
Dude, no spoilers. No spoilers.
It wasn't that special then. Nothing big
Yeah.
happened.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. Shrug.
Shrug.
You
Okay.
believe wear her
all right.
wedding dress?
But
All right,
Willow,
Honors,
though, seriously.
Yes. All right,
he's gotta
everybody.
go.
I gotta go. But thank you so much, everybody, for bearing with us on an Audible Into Hills Have Eyes.
For Berrymaning
And-
with us.
Berrymaning with us, and we will be back with you next week. Tom, you want to play us out here before we tell the people? Yeah, you got to play us out, but we can't let everybody leave without their moment of Zen. Tom, play us out. All right, everybody. We'll catch you next time. I'm going to get the fuck out of here. See you later. Have fun. Bye-bye.
So where is it, Jimmy?
I swear a dog ran off with it.
the principal's office.
Back again, huh, Jimmy?
But a dog really did run off with it.
You're just never able to see our side of things, are you?
Bend over. Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.